The first thing I want to ask you is you just presented this morning in a panel, and the title of the panel was The Secret Life of Articles from Download Metrics to Downstream Impact. And you all were discussing the Beyond Downloads project. And I was wondering if, for those of us who are not that familiar with the project, if you could fill us in a little bit on it.
Certainly. It's a project that we started a little over a year ago, actually, and have concluded the project now, so it was a little bit about a year. And it started because several of us were interested in this idea of what is counter not measuring.
Okay.
Libraries and publishers have relied on counter reports and using downloads as a measure of impact, as a measure of use, now for 13 years. And it's been wonderful. We didn't have that before. But now we're finding that it doesn't measure everything. And so we wanted to see what exactly is it not measuring? What other use is there of an article after it's downloaded? How do people use it? How do they share it? How much they share, as well as how do they share? And is there any way, ultimately we hope to find, is there any way that you can come up with a number, the magic number, a calculator that says for every download there are an average of 10, 20, 30, whatever that number is, uses or reads of that, so that you can kind of measure impact and value beyond the one download.
What methodology did you guys use, and who did you survey, and what was your role?
Yeah. Well, we used several methodologies, and I should say, when I talk about my role, that I really need to credit this big international team. So it was a fun group to work with. It was a team of researchers at Elsevier. It was the cyber research group in the UK, so Anthony Watkinson and Hazel Woodward and David Nicholas were involved in it from the UK through cyber. And then it was University of Tennessee Center for Information and Communication Studies and Counter. So Project Counter was involved from the beginning. Peter Shepard, who just retired last night, in fact, he just retired. He was the team member, and then Lorraine Estelle has taken over and has been involved too. So we had this good group, multinational and different kinds of organizations, peer research organizations, as well as publishers and service organizations. And so working together, we all had the same idea that we wanted answers to these questions, but as far as how we did it, that was pretty much left to the two research organizations. We designed the methodology and weren't directed in how we did the research. The others were interested in the findings and participated in ways we asked them to be, but we designed the methods. And so we used several methods. The first, and Peter Shepard of Counter took responsibility for a lot of this, was to contact various publishers, in particular open access publishers or publishers who do some open access, to see what kind of metrics they collect. Also, he contacted organizations that, like academia.edu, ResearchGate, organizations that are facilitating sharing. Mendeley is owned by Elsevier, so Elsevier got us numbers from Mendeley. So we had ideas and numbers directly from publishers and from social media research sharing kinds of networks. So that was one way. And the main takeaway from that is that there is no consistency. It would be hard for Counter to say this is the way it should be done by everybody, because people are still evolving how they're doing, and there isn't a consistent method. So that does point downstream to something Counter can do. So that was one method, gathering the information that's out there now. The next method was doing interviews and focus groups to find out people's candid opinions about the idea of sharing, as well as some ideas of the words that they might use, so that would help us design the survey instrument, and some attitudes and behaviors, what they're doing now, and kind of helping direct that. So we had 29 participants in the focus groups and interviews, and that was really, really interesting. Then from that, we designed the survey that was an international survey of researchers, and that was to get a much broader picture, to find out, are the behaviors that we heard about in the focus groups, are those typical, and how can they be extrapolated across a larger population of researchers. So that was the next part. And it was the focus groups and surveys that I spoke mostly about here at Charleston. And then the last was to take all of the numbers from the various sources and see if we could come up indeed with a calculator. And Lorraine Estelle of Counter talked a bit about that. And the bottom line of that is a bit premature to do that. You could come up with a calculator, but we wouldn't have real confidence that it would be accurate in a year, in 6 months even. But we did look at that.
You mentioned behaviors earlier, and I was wondering, it's obvious that the current citation and download metrics don't seem to reflect what's going on. What behaviors, scholarly behaviors, tipped you off to that?
Well, one thing is that not every place, but at a lot of universities, they noticed a start of a leveling off or a decrease in downloading after huge increases. And we knew some that the increases were because more publishers were counter report compliant, so that there was a bigger base. It was, so the increase just showed that there were more things being counted. But also there was an increase. It looked like people were probably saving time finding articles, so they had more time to read. So we were seeing this kind of increase. A lot of universities were beginning to see leveling off of their download metrics, or even downturn on some. We thought, are people reading less?
And that's a little dissident. You wouldn't think that would be occurring.
Think that. And so we wanted to see what it was. But then coupled with that, there was this, I think any scholar, all of us, get every day information from a variety of sharing social networks, and libraries run classes in how to use them, and we know that there is use of them, and we wanted to know how much use, and is there a relationship between use of things that make it easy to share downloaded articles and perhaps a decrease in downloads. What's the relationship between those two things, and how much sharing is actually going on.
And that's some of the things that you found out.
And that's what we were looking at. Yeah.
And obviously sharing is a big element in all of this, the sharing that's going on.
Yeah. What
tools are the scholars using to do the sharing?
Well, it's interesting. So you would assume that they're all using Mendeley, academia.edu, ResearchGate, or even Facebook and other kinds of general tools, and they do use those. But by far, the most popular method of sharing is email. So not very revolutionary, but it's convenient.
Well, that's the way it's always been, scholar to scholar, right?
Yeah, email is a one-to-one. Primarily, of course, it can be posted to a listserv or something, but it's right there. It's part of your workflow.
Right.
It's easy to do. It doesn't take any time. You just do it.
Right.
Now, there is an increasing use of research social sites like Mendeley, for example, but and they are increasing, and so people are using those as well, but not yet as the preferred method. And we heard in focus groups and interviews, we heard some kind of, I don't know which one to pick, and I get so much, and I'm getting tired of the emails, so there was they haven't quite settled yet on one solution, whereas email is quick and easy.
Right.
And doesn't mean they won't change behavior and change methods. But it has to be part of the workflow and pretty easy to do.
Are these sharing behaviors, do they differ from discipline to discipline? Did you guys pick up on any of that?
Some things differ. Now we really don't have humanities. So when I'm talking here, I'm talking about social sciences and various kinds of science. Not surprisingly, a lot of the differences are differences that we have seen for 35 years in reading studies. Discipline is the major predictor of difference in scholarly reading behavior and scholarly sharing behavior. Age somewhat, but discipline even more. So for example, we did ask people, what form do you like to share? Do you prefer to share? Do you prefer to share a preprint, or the author's final copy if it's your work, or the published version? And overwhelmingly, on average, people said the final published version. But computer science, physics, some of those that have a strong preprint culture, they're perfectly happy sharing preprints. So those kinds of are not unexpected, but you do see some. And then some of the other disciplinary differences is how how many people in a research group, and our research group's really prevalent. So interdisciplinary sciences are sharing more because people in research groups share more. So a theoretical mathematician shares less and with fewer people than somebody in environmental sciences where it's quite interdisciplinary.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
How does copyright impact all of this? Is there concern about copyright and all this sharing?
Interesting. Now, in focus groups and interviews, a couple people said, "Oh, this may not be legal. This may not be compliant with copyright law." I hadn't thought of that. And so then that changes then others say, oh, I hadn't thought of that. But the nice thing about a survey is you don't get influenced by other people's comments. And it didn't come up very often. In survey, we had a couple open-ended questions where people could put things in. A few people said it may be in violation of copyright, it may not be legal, but I'm going to do it anyway. Let them come and get me. I'm just a little fish, these kinds of comments. So there were some, mostly like, okay, it may not be right, but I'm going to do it because it's important. So it's interesting. I don't think librarians want to be copyright police, never have been.
No.
And so this is kind of a tension, and has been for a long time, of course. And it has always been that sort of tension between doing things that help the science progress versus following exactly the licensing laws, or if they're an author, they sign things and perhaps forget what they signed.
That's true. Yeah.
We did ask about embargoes, and embargoes are not very popular. So people may sign these things away and then not realize it.
Not realize what they've signed away.
Yeah, because they realize
Sure.
they think if it's my work, I should be able to share it.
Right. They feel proprietary over
That's
it.
right.
They feel like they should
Yeah.
be able to. Was there any other resistance to sharing? I mean, did any scholars say that they really don't like sharing
Again, we're talking about averages, so overwhelmingly positive. So we got lots of positive things. It helps my science progress. It helps me get recognition. There was another thing that came up again in open-ended comments. Not many people said, but there was this idea that I want to make sure that when other people share my work, that they share the correct citation, so I will get credit for that work. So there is a recognition when their work is being shared, that they want to make sure that whether they share it or somebody else, that they want to make sure that they are credited with that and get cited, because in the academic world, citations are still the coin of the realm, and they want to make sure that they get credit.
That makes sense.
So that was a negative only in the sense that it speaks to the method or the mechanics of sharing,
Right.
not the fact or act of sharing itself.